there, my name is Sophie and today I'll be taking you through the 13 Australian privacy principles.
So, what are the Australian privacy principles? Well, they're a set of 13 principles that regulate the handling of personal information by businesses and organisations. In today's digital age, data privacy has become a critical concern for individuals and businesses alike. In this video, we'll provide an overview of the 13 principles and exactly what they mean for individuals and businesses operating in Australia. The principles were first introduced in 2014, a part of the Privacy Amendment Enhancing Privacy Protection Act, and they apply to businesses with an annual turnover of $3 million or more. The APPs cover all aspects of data privacy, from the collection and the use of personal information to its disclosure and storage. So, Principle 1, open and transparent management of personal information. This principle requires organisations to be open and transparent about their management of all personal information. This means they must have a privacy policy that explains what personal information they collect and how they collect it, and then also how they use it and how they disclose it. So, Principle number 2, anonymity and pseudonymity. Principle 2 gives individuals the option of not identifying themselves or using a pseudonym when dealing with organisations, where it is lawful and practical. Principle 3, collection of solicited personal information. This principle sets out the rules for the collection of solicited personal information. This includes ensuring the collection is necessary for the organisation's functions or activities, and that they obtain the consent from the individual before they use their information. Next, on to Principle 4, dealing with unsolicited personal information. Principle 4 requires organisations to deal with unsolicited personal information carefully, ensuring it is not kept or used unless it is required for the organisation's functions or activities. Principle number 5, notification of the collection of personal information. Principle 5 requires organisations to notify individuals about the collection of their personal information. This includes providing information on the purpose of their collection, who the information will be disclosed to, and how the information will be stored. Principle number 6, use or disclosure of personal information. This principle sets out the rules for the use and disclosure of personal information. Organisations can only use or disclose personal information for the purpose for which it was collected, or for a secondary purpose if the individual has consented, and it must be permitted by law. Principle 7, direct marketing. Principle 7 regulates the use of personal information for direct marketing purposes. Organisations must obtain consent before using personal information for direct marketing, and individuals must be given the option to opt out of receiving direct marketing communications if they wish. Principle 8, cross-border disclosure and personal information. Principle 8 sets out the rules for the cross-border disclosure of personal information. This includes ensuring that the information is protected by law or binding scheme if it is going across borders. Principle number 9, adoption, use or disclosure of government-related identifiers. Principle 9 regulates the adoption, use or disclosure of government-related identifiers. Organisations cannot adopt a government-related identifier as their own, nor can they use or disclose a government-related identifier, except in very certain circumstances. Principle 10, quality of personal information. This principle requires organisations to take reasonable steps to ensure that personal information is collected is accurate, up-to-date and complete. Principle 11, security of personal information. Principle 11 sets out the rules for the security of personal information. Organisations must take reasonable steps to protect personal information from misuse, interference and loss, as well as unauthorised access, modification or disclosure. Principle 12 is access to personal information. This principle gives individuals the right to access their personal information that's held by an organisation at any point in time, and they can also request corrections if any information they hold is inaccurate or incomplete. And finally, Principle 13, correction of personal information. Principle 13 requires organisations to take reasonable steps to amend personal information. This includes them having to be up to date, complete, relevant, and accurate data. To comply with Australian privacy principles, businesses should take the following steps. Firstly, they should develop a privacy policy. Businesses should develop a privacy policy that outlines how they collect, use, and disclose personal information. Secondly, they should always obtain consent. Businesses should contain the consent of an individual before collecting or using their personal information. Thirdly, implementing security measures are essential. Businesses should use appropriate security measurements to protect personal information from unauthorized access, use, or disclosures. And lastly, they should train their employees really well on the handling of personal information and the importance of data privacy. So there you have it, Australia's 13 privacy principles, brought to you by Business Kitz. We're here to empower your business to ensure that you stay legally compliant with our huge bank of documents to help you every step of the way.